Hello, folks. This is your hillbilly historian coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee in the Appalachian Mountains of the United States of America to try to give you some common sense history that you won't find in your history books, high school or college. Today I want to talk about a hot issue. Or at least it's hot on my agenda. I want to talk to you about white supremacy. That's the term, white supremacy. The leftist, Marxist, communist, deep state, treasury thieves in the United States throw this term around to try to make you as a white man duck. To try to make you as a white man feel guilty about who you are and what you are. Well, I got news for you, folks. It ain't nothing but pure, unadulterated, homogenized, clinically approved bullshit. That's all white supremacy terms as they throw them at you is about. They talk about systemic racism, anything to try to pry more money out of you. And hey, don't tell me the white man's been mean. We had some evil people in the past, people like Adolf Hitler, people like Abraham Lincoln, people who were pure evil, who got into positions of power and made people pay the price for putting these people into powerful positions. Those white people have been evil. You know, Lincoln is the one that told Sheridan to get the Sioux Indians off the plains so they could build railroads and build towns and build farms and where Indians lived, to basically put these Indians on reservations, which is kind of like some of the world's first concentration camps. That's all a reservation turned out to be. Don't let the Indians live where they want to live. Make them live where we want them to live, on property and land that's not valuable. And take that land for the white people. There has been whites who've committed genocide and stuff like that. But let's get a chalkboard up here and start keeping score. And this ain't no football game or basketball game, but there's scores to be kept. There were white people that grabbed Africans and brought them to North America for slave labor because there was a profit in it, money to be made. And they did evil, but civilized nations of Europe put a stop to the slave trade. But it goes on today. Slave trade is still going on in Africa and Middle Eastern countries. So, you know, we can't stop it. We stopped it in lands where we were in control. But hey, well, let me tell you something about these mean, old, vicious, evil white people. Who invented the internal combustion engine? If a white man had not invented that internal combustion engine, if a white man had not had the intelligence to put together certain elements and resources to create an engine which would give us power to drive vehicles, automobiles, trucks, trains, planes. Who would be shoveling all this horse manure today? That's right. The dark people would be shoveling horse manure for the rest of their lives. But we invented a machine that reduced horse flesh to recreational purposes only. And so therefore, we're not knee deep or shoulder deep in horse manure. which is where we might have been if that internal combustion engine had not been invented. Look, God gave us the resources and the brains to invent all this stuff. And white man invented it. Go back and study your Nobel Prizes. One black man has won a Nobel Prize in the science area. And he was a Brit who was knighted, lived on an island in the Caribbean, St. Lucia Island in the Caribbean. He was a British citizen. That's your black contribution to science. And there's been over 500, 600 whites. Only about 45 Asians have won Nobel Prizes. Only about 11 Muslims. And one black. And this is outside the subjective area. I'm not counting literature and peace. Those two are subjective choices based on opinion, not scientific breakthroughs. And look at your inventions in the United States where they apply for ownership of these inventions called patents. Look at the number of whites that have the patents, who own the patents. And look at the number of blacks that own patents. Of course, the government doesn't want to give you that information. You have to pry it out of them. They don't want to ever tell the truth about anything because they want to keep their deep state hate-filled agenda going. The Marxists and communists, that's all they're about, is hate, hatred, dividing man against man. Well, I got news for you. Now, you can call me a racist if you want to, but I'm giving you historical facts. When the Portuguese and the Spanish in the early 1500s began to sail down the coast of Africa, and they approached Africa below the Sahara Desert for the first time in European history, they found blacks who did not have a written language. They had not invented the wheel. They did not know how to use a wheel. They didn't know what a wheel was. They still lived in mud huts with dirt floors, sleeping on grass, and their roofs were made out of thatch, grass. They had not domesticated one single beast of burden. They used some cows, cattle, but they didn't use them as beasts of burden. They just milked them and killed them for their meat, for food. But they didn't put them in pens or anything like that. The average IQ of a black man in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, in the early 1500s was 70. And with European education, they were able to get these people up to an IQ of about 85. That's the average black IQ around the world is 85 now. Western civilization brought their IQs up to about 15 points from 70 to about an average of 85. Now there's some blacks that have intermingled, like for instance Kamala Harris. She has some white blood in her. So did Obama. And their IQs were a little bit higher because of the white blood. The average white IQ around the world is about 105. Asians is about 107. Jews among the white race, their IQ's up there with the Asians, about 107, 108. Average. But the black man, even with Western civilization teaching, their average IQ is still down around about 85. Now these are facts. These are not political statements. These are just facts that I want to point out that white men, even though there's been a lot of evil white men in the past, we're trying to put a stop to that. We're trying to be civilized, trying to be gracious. And talking about gracious, you know, when Lyndon Baines Johnson signed that War on Poverty Act on January the 8th, 1964, since then we've spent about $25 trillion on black programs in this country. I mean, is that not reparations? Was 40 acres and a mule not reparations? We've already paid these people enough reparations, enough social programs. They need to be out on their own, stand on their own 2 feet, earn some money for once, you know, instead of having it handed to you through the government. And all we get out of these blacks who get elected to Congress is hate-filled rhetoric. Hate, after all we've done for them. We brought them out of darkest Africa, out of the jungles, brought them over here, eventually gave them their liberty and equality, where they could go to the same schools everybody else goes to. We even bent over backwards, gave them the opportunity to get in schools where whites got turned down. Affirmative action. We've done so much for these people, and they just keep begging and begging. But a lot of them have learned to stand on their own 2 feet and make something out of themselves, and get on the right side of politics and quit being slaves to the Democrat Party, the people that gave them the KKK and lynchings and all that stuff. And now they're trying to use blacks to advance their Marxist agendas by divide and conquer. But anyway, whites should never feel guilty. You invented penicillin. You invented the aspirin. You invented the internal combustion engine. You invented the airplane. You invented and built trains and rails. You invented almost everything that has contributed to the advancement of mankind. You have made breakthroughs in medicine that are just unbelievable, that are keeping us alive so much longer. It is absolutely fantastic, amazing what whites are doing for the advancement of mankind. And if blacks and browns would just get out of the way, we'd make the world even a better place. I see a future where man learns to travel faster than the speed of light, maybe like Star Trek, get up to warp 7 times the speed of light, to where we will settle exoplanets all over our own Milky Way, and probably the nearest galaxy, Andromeda, and eventually even beyond that. Man, if he can think of it, he can do it, because God gave us the resources and the brains to figure all this stuff out and figure out how to use it, how to do it, how to make the most out of it. I mean, look at the beautiful housing we have today. So much better than them log cabins back in colonial days. Even the southern mansions back in the colonial days had broken windows and needed roof repairs and all kinds of stuff. They were not doing all that great. But today's technology, buildings are so much better. Air conditioning, a white man came up with air conditioning, and refrigeration and refrigerators, where we can preserve food so much easier. The gas stove, the electric stove. We have invented all these things that makes life so much better. And I see, with artificial intelligence working with man's intelligence, of having medical breakthroughs in space travel, settlement of other planets, going to planets where they have resources. Like, for instance, on Titan, one of the moons out there, Saturn or Neptune or Jupiter, somewhere out there, the moon called Titan, I think it's one of Saturn's moons. Titan has coal and natural gas and oil on the surface so much that we'll never run out of coal and oil and natural gas once we learn to go to these places and deliver it back or settle there. It's just absolutely amazing what man is capable of doing if allowed to do it. But Marxism and communism and socialism gets in the way, steals our treasury, steals our wealth, and takes everything away from the working man who is able to make these great breakthroughs for mankind. And when they try to make you feel guilty, accusing you of white supremacy or systemic racism and all that crap, ignore them and go ahead and make something out of yourself. Invent new things. Invent breakthroughs that helps all mankind. And you know what else about these evil white men? When we invent something, we share it with everybody. Look at all we did. AIDS was rampant in Africa. We came up with all kinds of medications for AIDS, and we shipped them there. Didn't charge them for them. We provided all that AIDS medication free of charge to those Africans to help them. So it's not like we're totally evil, because we're not. We do good things. Look at all the white farms in South Africa and what used to be Rhodesia. It's now called Zimbabwe. They run the white farmers out of Zimbabwe. Inflation went through the roof. People were starving to death, famine, and now they're asking these white farmers to come back. They're begging them to come back because these white farmers know what they're doing, and they provided food for blacks. It ain't like they grew food and kept it for themselves. They fed the black races, and the same thing in South Africa. The breadbasket of sub-Saharan Africa is South Africa. The farms there feed almost all black Africa. And those stupid blacks there are trying to drive the whites out, take the land away from them, take the farms away from them. And then who's going to feed them? You know, because they can't farm, they can't, they won't work to learn how to farm, they won't grow these crops and things they need to feed themselves. They just can't do it. They're too dependent. And but whites will grow this food and share it with the blacks. But now the blacks are trying to run all the whites out of South Africa. You know, you used to hear all this crap about apartheid. Let's put sanctions on South Africa for apartheid and all that. But now you don't hear anybody saying anything about the anti-white apartheid that's going on in South Africa. But they'll learn their lesson, just like Zimbabwe did. And there you go. But anyway, when they talk to you about white supremacy, you tell them, hell yeah. And by golly, it's a good thing. We're building stuff, we're making the world better for everybody, and we're sharing it with everybody. It ain't like we keep blacks from driving cars or flying on airplanes or anything like that. We share everything we invent with all of mankind. And all those breakthroughs that white supremacy comes up with is doing so much for the world. It's Don't let them put you on a guilt trip. If a white man feels guilty about being white, he's a bigger fool than his mom and dad ever dreamed he'd be. You know, you don't feel guilty about doing great things for mankind. And that's what white people do. And so there you go. And this is educating you, learning you from the hills of East Tennessee, the Appalachian Mountains, from your hillbilly historian. You have a good day, folks, and be proud of everything you do.